Darchei Tzion Avelos. The way of Tzion was full of mourning. The way of Tzion was mourning. The word Darchei and the word Derech is repeated again and again in Megillat Eicha. Kol Ovrei Derech, all those who are passing on the way. Here's what happens to the Jewish people. The word derech is a very powerful word. I want to start off with a story that I just heard yesterday. My son, Elisha, was a counselor in Camp Nagila. It is a camp for kids who are not religious. And it was the last day of camp. And the head counselor was trying to inspire all the kids to come home and hold on to the Torah and mitzvot. So he told them a story that had happened with a young boy who went to Camp Nagila. A true story that had happened recently. A boy who had been inspired by this camp to accept Torah and mitzvot to whatever level that he could. His family did not support him, but he decided he's going to try. And the first thing he did was he wore tzitzit. And he went the first day into public school wearing tzitzit. And he was one of the only Jews in that public school. And his name was Mark. And one of the boys looked at him and said, "Mark, what is that Jew thing that you're wearing?" So Mark innocently tried to explain, these are tzitzit, 613 mitzvot. And the boy wasn't really listening. The boy says, "Take off your Jew thing. We don't want a Jew thing in our school." And Mark said, "No, I'm going to wear it. I'm inspired. I'd like to wear it." So this boy, this bully, called over his friends. "Look, Mark's wearing the Jew thing. He's going to get us all Jewed up." And they surrounded him. They circled him. And they began to beat on this young boy, 12, 13 years old. And they beat on him and they punched him. And when he was on the ground and he's bleeding, they're kicking him. And eventually the principal came, and by this point, Mark was unconscious. The ambulance comes and brings Mark to the hospital. And my son, who's listening to the head counselor tell this story, he's thinking, "What are you doing? Are you trying to convince the kids not to wear tzitzit? Like, this is not the kind of story you tell them to inspire them." But the head counselor says, "Wait. This boy is brought to the hospital. He is revived. He had broken ribs. He was full of blood, stitches and stitches." And the next day, while he was recovering from his wounds in the hospital, the principal comes to visit him. And the principal gives him a kiss on the forehead. Not the principal, the head counselor, the head counselor of Nagila comes to visit him, gives him a kiss on the forehead. And this young boy says, thank you, Rabbi, for coming." He says, "Listen, I admire you so much. I want to make you an offer. I want to make you a deal." This boy came from a very poor family. He lived together with his mother in a trailer. The head counselor says, "Mark, I'd like to offer you $10,000 for your tzitzit. Your tzitzit are holy. They represented Torah and mitzvot in a place where nobody represents Torah and mitzvot. They're valuable, they're spiritually precious. I would like to offer you, I'd like to make a bid. I'd like to offer you $10,000 for your tzitzit." And of course, he knew the boy and his family needed money. $10,000 for your tzitzit. The little boy lying in the hospital bed looks at the head counselor, shakes his head and says, "Absolutely not. Not for $10,000 will I give up my holy tzitzit. I wore them while getting beaten. They're worth more than anything in the world. Not for $10,000 will I give up my tzitzit." To stay on the derech is not always easy. You know, we speak about derech, a way, a path. The word actually fits. A path, a way. If you've ever spoken to someone who is confused, or if you've ever been confused, what happens is you don't know where to turn. What should I do, this or that? Which way should I go? Do I believe? Am I committed? So you don't know which way to go. You have lost the derech. You are off the derech. You are off the path, and you're confused. I love that word, derech. Some people are scared of it. I love it. I think it's a perfect word, because when you know which way to go, there's a way forward. I got a sort of a troubling call, a perplexing call a few days ago. A man calls up and he was sort of clueless, but he wanted to do good, and he says, I have an AIDS, I have a solution for all those kids who are OTD, off the derech. And he gives me his idea, and I'm sort of trying to prop him up, trying to encourage him, trying to at least validate his idea, but it was an off-the-wall idea, clearly showing that he did not understand the test, the nisayon of being on the derech and off the derech. So I want to share with you something so beautiful. When Chazal and when the Jewish people use a certain terminology, it's always deep. And sometimes it can be updated for today's technology. Derech, a path, a way. There are 10, at least 10 that I think of, 10 analogies, derech, to how we approach Judaism. And I'm going to give you all 10. So here we go. 10 comparisons between a road and Judaism. You ready for this? Number 1, when you go on the road, especially if you don't know where you're going, you punch the address in the GPS. If you don't punch it in, if you don't know what your destination is, well, then you're not going to arrive there, are you? And so too it is within Judaism. Number 1, you have to know what you're punching in. What is that destination? Even if it's 1,000 miles away, punch something in. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. That's number 1. Number 2, you know, if you're a driver, sometimes it annoys you when somebody has on the brights behind you. Ever happened to you? Or when they got the brights and they're going in the opposite direction. It blinds you. And so it is with your Judaism. When you're around other people, if you yell and you scream and you make it scary, you turn on your brights, you're going to blind everyone. And everyone's going to say, you know, I can't take this. And especially if people are going, unfortunately, the opposite direction, and you have on your brights, you're certainly going to blind them, and they'll go totally off the road. And so, when do you have your brights on? When you're by yourself. When there's no one in front of you, no one to be blinded by your enthusiasm, your zealousness. So then you put on your brights. Then you could see very far. But otherwise, you keep on those lights. But make sure that you make your Judaism comfortable for others around you. Number 3, you know, when we speak about a road, very often roads have different lanes. I just came on the Garden State Parkway. You've got 4 and sometimes 5 lanes. Judaism also has lanes. And we have to appreciate that some of those lanes are very quick. You go in the left lane, you're enthusiastic. Maybe you follow Hasidus. Maybe you're Breslov. Maybe you just came back from Eretz Yisrael and you're on fire from a trip. You're in the fast lane, but there are other lanes. And all those lanes, as long as they're leading towards the same destination, all those lanes have to be respected. And I think if we want there not to be another Tisha B'Av, we have to appreciate that when we say to stay on the derech, derech has different lanes. As long as we're going to the same destination, appreciate all the lanes on the road. Number 4, I got a call from a young lady also right before Tisha B'Av. And she says to me, Rabbi, I want to do tzniut, but I don't. I know I should. I want to do the right thing, but I'm not feeling it, to tell you the truth. I don't feel enthusiastic about wearing skirts a certain size or covering my elbows or a neckline. I'm just not feeling comfortable. I don't feel it. I don't feel passionate about it. Why should I do it? So I went back to the word derech. I said, you know, when you're on the road, especially if you're going long distance, some roads are very brightly lit. You go to a highway, there's a lot of street lights. But sometimes you have to go on the back roads. Sometimes to get from one highway to the other, you have to cross through a town, and those roads may not be so brightly lit, but that's okay. Sometimes the road is brightly lit. It's clear, it's passionate, it's lucid, it's obvious. But sometimes the road is not brightly lit, but it's still the right road. And if you go off of that road, if you only go on brightly lit roads, you're never going to get to your destination. Sometimes you've got to go on roads that are not brightly lit in order to get to where you need to go. So if you're enthusiastic about tzniut, I told her that's amazing. If you're enthusiastic about giving maaser, great. But if you're not, do it anyways. If you're enthusiastic about tefillah with b'tzibur, great. But if you're not, do it anyways. Sometimes the roads are not brightly lit, but they're still the correct path. Number 5, no. Sometimes when you're on a highway, there are cars going the opposite direction. Be very, very careful not to get too close to them, because you're going to have a head-on collision. And so it is when we speak about going on the derech. Sometimes, unfortunately, there are people going the wrong way. And if we get too close to them, we're going to have a head-on collision, and Rahman al-Islam, there's going to be a terrible accident. Understand that when cars are going the opposite way, not the way that we need to go, we have to distance ourselves. We have to keep ourselves safe. This is the path and not the other way. Number 6, you ever driven on a road in the middle of the night and you're a little bit tired? Bad idea. But what they put on some highways are the edge of the road, they put rumble strips. So as you're driving, you feel your car shaking, and you wake up, oh no, let me get back on the path. And so too it is. Sometimes Hashem puts rumble strips at the edge to shake you up, to wake you up. Tisha B'Av is a great big speed bump. It's a great big rumble strip. It shakes us, and it reminds us, fellas, you're getting off the road. You're asleep. Uri yeshena mishinaschem. You're a little bit asleep. Please wake up. Those are the rumble strips of life. You stay on the derech. It should be smooth. It should be glatt. Number 7, if you know that you're on the right highway, if you're on the right road, what if someone says, no, why are you going north? You should be going south. No, you've been this road many times. You know the road is north. What if 10 people say, oh, go south, go south? No, if you know it's north, no matter how many people tell you, hey, go south, you go north because you know the derech. So it is when you have friends who are not such good influences on you, and they say, why? Let's go out and party. Let's be Mechalel Shabbat. Why in the world do you have to be so makpid on tzniut? They're all telling you south, but you know your direction is north. Stay north. If you know the direction, stay on the derech. Don't go the opposite derech. You know, sometimes I'm on the highway and I'm late. And I'm unnecessarily late because there was an accident 4 miles up and everyone is rubbernecking. Everyone is gawking. Everyone is staring at the accident. They're looking and they say, oh my goodness. And they slow down. And that makes other people slow down. And soon there's a lot of traffic. And they're making everyone late. And they're stopping everyone's progress. Unfortunately, my friends, sometimes even within the Torah community, there's an accident. A person falls short of who they should be, what they represent. It's sad, it's even devastating. But if we begin to gawk, if all we do is rubberneck, oh my goodness, I can't believe that rabbi did that. I can't believe that lay person did that. I can't believe that community did that. And we stare and we gawk. You know what we do? We stop everyone's progress. We've got to just keep going. Unfortunately, accidents happen. There is a Yetzer Hara, but don't rubberneck. And don't post about it on Facebook, oh this, oh that, because you slow everyone from their growth on the derech. Unfortunately, accidents happen. Go straight. Don't stop yourself. Don't slow down. And please, for the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, don't slow everyone else behind you down just because there's an accident at the side of the road. Number 9, when you're on the highway, and I travel almost for a living, sometimes you get tired. And you know what you do? You pull into a rest area. You buy yourself some Red Bull. You may close your eyes and get a little schluff. You shake yourself awake. You wait there until you're ready to go on. And so it is when you're on the derech. You're going and you're going, but sometimes you get tired. Sometimes you pull over and you rest. And you're not growing enthusiastically and dynamically. That's okay. Stop listening to the GPS that says you're supposed to arrive at this time. You'll arrive when you're gonna arrive. Don't worry. Take that break when you need it. But don't make a U-turn. Just because you had to take a rest break doesn't mean that you go back the opposite way on the highway. When we recognize that we need a break, we hold steady. We do what we're doing. We don't regress. And we breathe. And we enjoy life. And we enjoy this beautiful world that Hashem made. And then, when we're ready for that next spurt of dynamic growth, we get back on the highway. But we don't get back on the opposite highway. And some people, if they're not going forwards, they're going backwards. So if I'm not going, let me just go backwards. Chas v'shalom. You go straight and you grow. And number 10, when we say that we need to stay on the derech, you may think the most important word is derech. But actually, the most important word is the. To stay on the derech. Meaning, you have to recognize, we have to recognize that there is a the derech. There is a the derech. This is the derech. This is the way. You cannot stay on the way. You cannot grow on the way. You cannot, we cannot bring Mashiach and end a Tisha B'Av if we're confused about what is the derech. And when someone tells you some kind of ridiculousness, like, oh, there are many drachim. You go north, I go south. I believe this. I don't quite believe, but I'm spiritual in my own spiritual way. That's not the derech. That's called being lost in the wilderness. The first step is to know that there is the derech. And we learned that by having Rabbeim. We learned that by having chevrusas. We learned that by learning Torah. That's how we know this. Know that there is a the in derech. 10 things, 10 analogies to derech. Now, once we've gone through these analogies, we have to have a caveat. And the caveat is, since there is a the derech, a person should not delude themselves into thinking that the derech has a shortcut. Because in reality, if there is a the derech, if there is a point A and a point B, Occam's razor, the shortest way, point A to point B, you cannot cut corners and expect to reach your destination. I remember once I was driving with someone, and I did not have my GPS with me, and I was going to the airport JFK, and they said, I have an amazing shortcut. And I know from Muncie, it's an hour and a quarter. They said it'll take you 45 minutes. I don't know how it's possible to get there, but I listened to him. And so I went on a shortcut. And it worked. I got to the airport. I got to Newark. I almost missed my flight. Shortcuts don't work. In real life, hard work works. Doing it right works. This past week, I was in Los Angeles and I have a student named Arik. And Arik, a lovely boy, a handsome young man. He used to come to my Wednesday night class. I didn't know if he would become religious, but I knew he was good for business. He was going to be wealthy. He was in wealth management already. He had all sorts of job offers. Arik, wonderful boy. And I was in Los Angeles this past week, and Arik, I got a call out of the blue. I hadn't spoken to him in years. And Arik says, I'd love to say hello to you. I said, sure. And Arik comes, and he's got a yarmulke, and he's in business, Baruch Hashem, doing nicely, looks just the same as he did 10 years ago. I said, how you doing? And I didn't want to ask questions. I'm always scared to hear answers. I said, how you doing? He said, good. He says, I have a chavrusa, and we finish the Mishnayos, Seder Zroim and Moed. I said, what? Arik, you finish Mishnayos 2 Sedarim? He says, yeah, but I have another chavrusa, and in 2 months, I'm making a siyum on Shas. Shas? Arik is making a siyum on Shas? How did he do it? The answer is simple. He did not cut corners. He went through the process. He did it right. When the Torah gives us instruction, the Torah is saying, I want you to stay on the derech, but there's no get-rich-quick schemes in Judaism. It's all about doing it right. There's no get-rich-quick scheme for davening with kavanah. It's hard. It's hard to cry over a Beis HaMikdash. It's hard to feel avelus. It's hard to give your money to tzedakah. It's hard to show respect day in and day out for your wife and your children. It's hard. There are no shortcuts. The Mishnah says it many times, Yogata umatzasa taimin. If a person says, I worked hard and I succeeded, believe that guy. He went through the process. He did the work. Believe him. Of course. Lo yagati matzasi. I didn't work hard. I figured out a shortcut to become great. I figured out a shortcut to Judaism. Al tamin. Don't believe him. That's the beauty of derech. If you do it right, it's beautifully lit, it's clean, it's clear most of the time, and you're going to get to your destination. As they say in English, you're going to have your cake, and you're going to eat it too. You're going to enjoy life b'olam hazeh, b'olam haba, with parnasa, with nachas, with spirituality, but without shortcuts. Some people even use Judaism as a shortcut. There's a Gemara in Megillah where different Amoraim were asked, how did you live many days? What mitzvah did you do in order to live many days? And one of the Amoraim, I don't remember who, but he says, you know why I lived many days? Lo yasisi beis medrash kapendaria. I never made the beis medrash into a shortcut. Simple pshat is he never walked through the beis medrash. He never walked through the beis medrash made into a shortcut. But let's give it another explanation. I never made beis medrash into a shortcut. I never used my learning as a shortcut for an honest living. I never used honest living as a shortcut for making a seder. I did it right. And when you do it right, you stay on this derech. I tell my students, you should think when it comes to relationships about being shomer negia. You know why? Because it's a shortcut to a relationship. There are no shortcuts in life. And you want to be on the derech, you got to go through the process. And you have to teach your kids that there is such a process. And so, my friends, with everything that I said, if there is a derech, and you've got to stay on it, it is the derech. And sometimes it'll be dark, and sometimes it'll be bright, and sometimes there'll be accidents on the side, and sometimes there'll be people going the other way, and sometimes we'll be woken up by rumble strips. If there is a derech, you know what's at the end of the road? Something called reunion. Reunion with Hashem. Reunion is the payoff. That's the destination. What does the word reunion mean? It comes from the word union. We used to have union with Hashem. We were one. Yisrael, the Araisa, the Kudsha Brichu Chadu. We were one. But then we got lost. And we were made to be sent into Galut. And so we need reunion. We once again want to be one. If you look in Sefer Bereshis, you'll see in Sefer Bereshis the pattern. And it goes like this. Bereshis Noach. In the beginning, we rest. In the beginning, Hashem gives us peace, lets us sit in the land, lets us live beautiful lives. But Lech Lecha, if you go out, you leave, Vayeir Chayei Sarah, and you go out and see a life of riches. So you may still be a frum Jew, but now you're being very involved in Gashmiut. You're very involved in physicality and physical pleasures. So you're a frum Yid, but you're driving a Bentley. You know what's going to happen? Toldos. The children will come, your children, Vayetze. They're going to go off the derech. You get so swallowed up with physicality, with physical pleasure, Vayetze. And you know what's going to happen? Vayishlach. Hashem is going to send us away, Vayeshev, and we'll be made to sit in Galut. And we're going to think about what we're doing and why we're still here another Tisha B'Av. Miketz. But the time will come when we'll do Teshuvah and we'll cry over the Beis HaMikdash, and Hashem will see that we're sincere. Vayigash. Hashem will bring us back close. Vayichi. And we'll be made to live in Eretz Yisrael at the times of Mashiach. The entire history of Klal Yisrael is in Bereshit. And I'm going to end with a quick story. This past week, I was speaking to new rabbis who are on college campuses, and there was a rabbi who was starting in Eugene, Oregon. His name is Rabbi Mashkovsky. And I said to him, Rabbi, how did you choose to go into Kiruv, especially to Oregon? There's no community for your kids. Why are you going to Oregon? What made you? You're coming from Eretz Yisrael. You were living in Eretz Yisrael. He said, I'll tell you. My parents got divorced when I was a very young child. And my father moved to South Africa, and I grew up with my mother. And all my life, I avoided seeing my father. It was too complex, it was too complicated. I didn't know how I would interact with him. So I just avoided it. I just didn't think about it. And this past year, I got a phone call. Your father has cancer and he's dying. And I thought to myself, it's been 25 years since I was a little child. I should really go and I should see him. And so I booked a plane to South Africa, and I met him at the airport. And in 1 second, we bonded. It's as if we grew up together. We were so alike. We enjoyed each other's company so much. And when it was time to leave, I didn't want. And so I came back a few months later, again and again. I must have gone back to South Africa 5 times this year. And the last time I came, my father at that point was so ill, he was incoherent. And he passed away. And I wept. And I wept for this man who I did not know for 25 years, who I could have been close with, who I could have had a relationship with. And then I realized how many of our brothers and sisters have not seen their father for 25 years. These boys and girls on the college campus, they didn't know their heavenly father. 25 years. How much would they appreciate a reunion to show them that derech, to show them that path, so they could once again embrace their heavenly father and feel his love? We need reunion. So Yehi Ratzon that this Tisha B'Av should be the Tisha B'Av of reunion. And we shouldn't be embarrassed and ashamed to say, I am on the derech, I am on the path. And even when I have to stop by a rest stop to catch my breath, I will go right back on that derech, and I'll continue growing. I won't take any shortcuts. I will do it right. I will be strong. And at the end, I will have the most awesome reunion with Avinu Shebashamayim b'meirav yameinu. Amen.